When I hear people talking about Lance Stroll, many of them are averse to him because of the obvious reason of his dad who bought him the seat in Formula One and because of the lack of his performance prior to 2020. The dislike towards him has gotten better over the last year, but obviously hasn't disappeared, which is why I think Lance Stroll is criminally underrated. Obviously, Lance joined Formula One because of his father, who pretty much bought him the seat, though that was not something new in Formula One. He joined the Williams team in 2017 with just the age of 18, and already then, he was partnered with arguably one of the best drivers of the last decade, Felipe Massa. Stroll had a difficult start into the season, but in just his 8th race in Formula One, he scored his maiden podium, making him the second youngest driver to stand on a Formula One podium, which confirmed his talent that he showed throughout his junior career. On his way to Formula One, he won the Italian F4 and the F3 European Championship before he skipped Formula 2 to go directly to Formula One. His maiden podium in Baku was the season highlight, and at the end of the season, he was only a full 3 points behind Massa, which was a huge achievement for Lance. Massa obviously left the team after 2017, which made Williams sign Sergei Sirotkin for 2018. In 2018, Williams had by far the worst car on the grid, though Lance Stroll still managed to score 6 points, 5 more than his teammate. He had some great races and was constantly beating his teammate. Lance's father didn't see a future at Williams and therefore bought Force India, as they were known back then, in August 2018. He then put his son Lance into that seat for 2019 to replace Ocon. And that was when a lot of fans started to dislike Lance. They were expecting a lot from him. 2019 was a tough year for the then known Racing Point team compared to previous seasons. And it wasn't the best for Lance either, scoring only 21 points compared to his teammates' 52. That was when people started to go against him and questioning his talent and time in Formula One, saying that he is taking away a seat from far better drivers. The whole media was pushing against him, and back then he was only 21 years old. Hating drivers and people in general affects their mental health, and especially if someone is still that young. People started to throw hate against him from every word that would come out of his mouth, or even just seeing him on TV. Lance's short and sometimes questionable answers in the media didn't help either. But I think that Lance Stroll is a completely misunderstood character, and what followed is incredible. Coming into 2020, Racing Point took a radical approach to their car design, which many started to question. But what wasn't in doubt is that they had an extremely quick car underneath them, and Lance Stroll took full advantage of that. The off-season was obviously due to COVID longer than expected, which might have helped Lance even more in preparing for the upcoming 2020 season, and Racing Point stood by his side. The first race in 2020 didn't go to plan as an engine issue ruled him out, though in the second race he finished in 7th place in a hectic finish in which a few people, including Daniel Ricciardo, weren't happy with the move from Stroll, but that was quickly forgotten. As we went to Hungary for round 3 of the Formula One Championship, Lance Stroll smashed it. He qualified in P3 and what followed was a remarkable and controlled drive to a P4 finish in the race. Then Sergio Perez, his teammate, got COVID and was ruled out for the next 2 Grand Prix in Silverstone, which were trickier for the Silverstone-based team. But coming back to Spain with his teammate back, he came home with an awesome P4 finish. And 2 races later, Lance Stroll got his second podium finish in Formula One when he finished the crazy Italian Grand Prix in P3, though himself included felt he could have won that race too. But when the dust settled, we all knew that a podium in itself was a great achievement. But what was followed then was a harder time for Lance. Fresh from his podium in Italy, it went straight into Mugello for Formula One. And Lance Stroll was driving an awesome race there and was in contention for another podium finish until his tire blew up, resulting in a scary, hefty shunt into the wall, which no doubt knocked his confidence in that car quite a bit. We then had a 2-week break until Russia, but in Russia nothing was going well and smoothly, and in just the first lap he got tapped into the wall by the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Coming into Germany, Stroll felt unwell and therefore missed the Eiffel Grand Prix. Later, it turned out that Lance had actually contracted COVID-19. He quickly recovered though and was back for the Portuguese Grand Prix in Portimao the first time we had raced there. That would have been the perfect time for him to bounce back. though in the end he retired after a crash with Lando Norris in turn 1. 2 days earlier, in Friday practice, he crashed in the same place with Max Verstappen. And then after the race, it started all over again. The media was starting to go against him again. For a young guy like him, going through a tough time, it was not great from the fans and media that started to go against him and maybe affected his mental health once again, something that is hugely important. In one interview after the race, you could see Lance actually trying to hold back tears. But then the page turned for Stroll as he took an amazing pole position at the Turkish Grand Prix, his first pole in Formula 1. That whole qualifying was hit with rain, and even though a lot is down to how good you can fire up your tires, we can't take the respect away from Lance for achieving that pole position and upsetting Red Bull and Max Verstappen, who have been the favorites the whole weekend long. The pole couldn't have come at a better time for Stroll as he silenced his critics with that stunning pole position. That showed us once again what a talent we have in Lance Stroll, and Stroll himself added another great wet weather drive to his name after the great quali in Italy 2017 and race in Germany in 2019. Come race day, the rain was still there. When lights went out, Lance Stroll got away perfectly and was pulling away at the start. He was leading the race for the first 35 laps comfortably, though in the end he dropped to ninth place, which was due to front wing damage. In the end, it was another tough one to take for Lance Stroll. We then had 3 final races left in 2020, 2 in Bahrain and the final race in Abu Dhabi mid-December. The first race in Bahrain was a hard one for everyone after Grosjean's huge crash, which shook everyone up. The final 2 races were here then, and we were racing on the outside loop of the Sakir circuit. And what a race we had there! That race had everything from heartbreak to joy come the finish line. And Lance Stroll added another podium to his tally with another third place finish while his teammate won the race. There was delight all over the Racing Point team and garage who were fighting for the P3 spot in the Constructors' Championship against McLaren at that time. Now we are in the final race in Abu Dhabi, which was a hard one for Racing Point, though Lance Stroll held strong to finish the final race of 2020 in P10. And all in all, we can say that Lance Stroll had a great season in 2020. After the 8th race, he was all the way up in P4 in the championship. He improved drastically in his driving. He had a hard time in the middle of the season, battling the critics, but the way he came back was definitely impressive. And now we are in 2021 and the Racing Point team is no longer known under that name. They are now the Aston Martin Cognizant Formula 1 team. A huge brand in Aston Martin is coming back into the sport, and crucially, the team has signed Sebastian Vettel for the 2021 season to boost their comeback to F1. Though with that huge name comes huge pressure and expectation, which Aston Martin couldn't live up to yet. But Lance Stroll has had some brilliant performances in the first 4 races, scoring points in the first 2 and beating his teammate Sebastian Vettel comfortably in 3 of those races, though Sebastian Vettel is coming into a new team and needs a bit of time to get up to speed, but is doing well. But with all the pressure that comes with the Aston Martin name and having Sebastian Vettel as a teammate, Lance Stroll has coped brilliantly, and for me his performances in 2021 until now have fallen under the radar. It will be exciting to see what more there is to come from him and the Aston Martin team starting in Monaco next weekend, but I am sure there is more to come from him and the team. This is why I think Lance Stroll is criminally underrated. That would be it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Goodbye.